Hello and welcome to another NGen Math 6 lesson by eMathInstruction. My name is Kirk Weiler and today we're going to be doing Unit 3, Lesson 7, More Practice Dividing Decimals. Because I know you didn't get enough in the last lesson, I know you love dividing decimals, so we're doing more of it today. And we really are just going to get some practice today on the standard algorithm for dividing decimals. We'll jump right in the first exercise and get some review about how to do that. We're also going to look at how we can check our quotients by using products today. So how we can check the results of our division by using multiplication of decimals today. So as if dividing the decimals wasn't enough, we're also going to do a little bit of multiplication of decimals today. We'll also see some applied problems with dividing two decimal quantities, but mostly we're just going to be reviewing and looking at how to do more division involving decimals. And I know it can be a little frustrating and a little bit ugly even for somebody like me, and I eat, live, and breathe math. So yeah, you know it's not fun when even I'm not looking forward to it. But anyway, let's jump right into this lesson and do a little bit more work with dividing decimals. Here we go. A review problem to begin. Exercise number 1. For each of the following, find the quotient and then check your work using a product. Show all work. All right, awesome. Let's review the standard algorithm for dividing decimals. So here in the first problem, letter A, we've got 76.16 divided by 11.2. Now what I really want is I want to be dividing by a number that's a whole number. I don't want to have a decimal quantity in it. So I'm going to take that 11.2, I'm going to move the decimal place 1 unit to the right, and likewise that 76.16, I'm also going to move the decimal point 1 unit to the right. So let's begin there and take a look at our quotient. Here we go. So move 1 unit to the right in both cases, and I'm going to change my problem into 112 divided into 761.6. Now, of course, I have to think about how many times 112 goes into 761. Probably a good choice is either 7 or 6. Let's try 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 1 is 7 plus 1 is 8. And 7 times 1 is 7. Now, obviously, 784 is too big. We can't do 761 minus 784. So I went too big, and now I'll go with 6. All right, put that decimal point right away. 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1. 6 times 6 is 6, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and then 6 times 1 is 6. Now we have to do the subtraction. That's not going to even be pretty. So we're going to borrow 1 here. 11 minus 2 is 9. That's going to bring that down to a 5. Borrow 1 here. We're going to have 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. 89 is good because it's less than 112. We're going to then drop our 6 down. All right. Now, before, we know that 7 wasn't too big. Let's try 8. Let's do 8 times 2 is 16. That's a good sign. Carry the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And then 8 times 1 is 8, and look at that. So it appears that our answer is 6.8. And that wasn't too bad. But now, let's make sure it's right. Now, how do we check the results of division using multiplication? Well, we take our result, 6.8, and we multiply what we were dividing by, 11.2, to see if we get 76.16. So literally, our check is the following. 11.2 times 6.8. So let's do it. Let's multiply some decimals. 8 times 2 is 16, carry the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and 8 times 1, again, is 8. Erase that. Do a little 0 here. Throw that over here. 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1, carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And then 6 times 1 is 6. I'm going to add 6, 11, carry the 1, 8 and 1 is 9, plus 7 is 6. Right, carry the 1, 76. I've got 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, move, and I get 76.16, which is what I was supposed to get, right? I can always check, and we're going to be doing a lot of checking today, right? Which is good, because the checking, right, reinforces our ability to multiply two decimal quantities together. And that's helpful then to check to make sure our quotients worked out the way they should have. What I'd like you to do now is pause the video, try to find the quotient in letter B, and then also try to do the check to make sure it's correct. Pause the video now and see what you get. Now notice, I never mentioned anything about terminating decimals versus repeating decimals, etc. If the decimal repeated, it would be very difficult, maybe not impossible, but very difficult to do the check mathematically with multiplication. So we expect our decimals at least here to terminate. So here I've got 39.52 divided by 5.2. I'm going to move that decimal place 1 unit to the right there to give me 52, and I'll move it 1 unit to the right there as well. So let's begin this problem by rewriting it. I'm going to just move this over here. Let's rewrite this as 52 into 395.2. All right, so I'm thinking about 50 going into, 40 roughly, right? So maybe I start by trying 7. Maybe 8, maybe 7. Let's try 7. 7 times 2 is 14, carry the 1. 7 times 5 is 35, plus another one is 36. That's looking pretty good. All right, I don't want to lose my decimal point right there. All right, now I'll do some subtraction. 5 minus 4 is 1, 9 minus 6 is 3. 31 is a good remainder because it's less than 52. Now I drop that 2 down, I'll get 312. I'm looking for how many times 52 now goes into 312. That ends up being 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1. 6 times 5 is 30, plus another 1 is 31. Subtract remainder of 0. So it appears that my answer is 7.6. But again, the great thing is I can check this by simply doing 7.6 times 5.2. Let me do that right over here. 7.6 times 5.2. Again, 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1. 2 times 7, 14, plus 1 is 15. Little 0 there. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 3 is 38. Add them together. 2, 5, 9, 3. 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, and 39.52. Great. Again, there's no absolute need to do the check. We're doing those today for 2 reasons. 1, to make sure the answer to our quotient is correct, and 2, to get a little practice multiplying quantities that involve decimals. So let's keep working on this. Nothing new yet. More practice with division and checks, right? Because this can get worse and worse, harder and harder in terms of the complexity of the division. So let's take a look at another one of these together, and then we'll have you do letter B on your own. So exercise number 2. Find each of the following quotients and check using multiplication. All right. So in letter A, we have 14.28 divided into 178.5. I'm going to want to move this decimal place 2 units to the right and this one 2 units to the right. Now, this one's pretty easy when I move it 2 units to the right because, well, I'm just looking to get 1,428. On the other hand, when I move this one 2 units to the right, I literally have to tack an extra 0 on. So I'll get 17,850. I think I'm going to even put a little decimal point there just so I really have got it down there. Now this can start to be a little bit intimidating, especially when the line doesn't connect. So I have to start thinking about, all right, I've got 1,428 and I want to divide it into here. Now, luckily it's not too bad because 1428 and 1,785, well, I can say that's going to be 1, right? So that's going to give me 1428 like that. And let's do some subtraction here. All right, well, got to do a little borrowing here, make that into a 7. All right, 7 minus 2 is 5. 7 minus 4 is 3. So a remainder of 357. And then I drop my 0 down. Just kind of get rid of that. Now I have to think about 1,428 into 3,570. That's going to be 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 2 is 4, plus another one is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 1 is 2. Oh, this is lovely. I can't get enough of it. Subtract. Got to do a little bit of borrowing here. 10 minus 6 is 4, 6 minus 5 is 1, 15 minus 8 is 7. I have 7140. All right, this is probably the hardest part. Now I have to think about 1,428 into 7,140. Let me try 5, given that that ends in a 0. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Oh, this is looking good. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21. And 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Look at that. Subtract with a remainder of 0. It looks like my answer is 12.5. So 14.28 divided into 178.5, yep, looks to be 12.5. And again, we can, quote, easily check this using multiplication. And our multiplication now will almost be as bad as our division, but maybe not quite. We would want to do 14.28 times 12.5. Come on. Nope, just doesn't want to behave. Times 12.5. Let's do it. Let's check it. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10, plus another 4 is 14. Oh man, my board is acting up today. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21. 5 times 1 is 5, plus another 2 is 7. I believe that's supposed to be a 4. It looks like a blob sitting right next to another blob. So 7,140 there. Let's put a 0 now. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 2. Or 2 times 1 is 2. Get rid of all these so they're not totally confusing. Now I've got a couple zeros, and now it should be easy. 1 times 8 is 8. 2, 4, 1. I need to just add 0, 0, 0 is 0. 4, 6, and 0 is 10. Carry the 1. 8 and 5 is 13. Plus another 2 is 15. Carry the 1. 8 and 2 is 10. Plus 7 is 17. Plus 1 is 18. 4 and 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. And 1, I've got 2 decimal places, another decimal place. So 1, 2, 3. And there it is, 178.5. Whew, man, there's some decimal multiplication there. You might start to suspect that this is actually a little bit more difficult than this. By the way, if you kind of really look at it though, you start to notice some things. Notice 7140, 7140, 28560, 2856, even that 1,428 with a couple zeros is sitting right up here. Everything that occurs in the division also kind of occurs in the multiplication. What I'd like you to do now, pause the video and try letter B on your own. All right, we're going to run out of some room probably eventually, but let's take a shot at this. So I'm going to move this decimal point 2 places to the right and also 2 places to the right. So let me kind of divide off here. That means we're going to have 164 divided into 127.92. And again, it's always good, I think, to reflect for a moment when we have a smaller number divided by a larger number. 127.92 is most certainly smaller than 164. Whenever we divide a smaller number by a larger number, we're always going to get a result that's smaller than the number 1. It'll be 0 point something, right? And here's how we go about doing it, right? So 164 goes into 127 0 times, right? It just doesn't go into that number any amount of times. So we're going to get a 0 here and 127 and drop the 9. Now I have to think about 164 going into 1,279. All right, so maybe let's try 7. Let's see how that works. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 6 is 42, plus another 2 is 44. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11. That's looking pretty good, but let's see. Gives me a remainder of 131. Awesome, 131 is less than 164, so we guessed right on the 7. Now I'll drop that 2 down. Boop, all the way down there. Now I have to think about how many times 164 goes into 1,312. This time I'm going to guess 8. All right, 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 6 is 48, plus another 3 is 51. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus another 5 is 13. Awesome. Subtract remainder of 0. We get 0.78. And again, the check, very similar to here, maybe even a little bit easier. We need to do 1.64 times 0.78. Why don't we do that over here? 1.64 times 0.78. Here we go. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 6 is 48, plus another 3 is 51. 8 times 1 is 8, plus another 5 is 13. Now we have 0. 7 times 8 is 28. Carry the 2. 7 times 6 is 42, plus another 2 is 44. And 7 times 1 is 7, plus another 4 is 11. Add them all up. 2, 9, 7, 2, 1, with 4 decimal points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have 1.2792. Exactly what we should have. All right, I'm like 4 for 4 in division so far, right? And I know I am because of my checks with multiplication. It would be extremely weird if you would both botch the division and the multiplication in exact ways that would make the check work out for a mistake that you did here. It's almost impossible to have that happen. Let's do one more of them that's kind of crazy like this. Then maybe we'll do a little bit of applied problem work. Number 4, some very, very long division. All right, exercise number 3. Find 18.7116 divided by 0.372. Check your answer using multiplication. All right, I'd like you to pause the video right now. Take a shot at this problem on your own, and then we'll revisit it and take a look. Now, one thing that of course is tricky is that division can be written this way, and will very oftentimes be written this way, or it can be written with, the standard division bar and things like that. So we have to make sure just from the very beginning that we're actually writing this down correctly, right? I'm dividing 18.7116 by 0.372. Now I'm going to have to move that decimal point 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3. So that's going to give me 372 divided into 18711.6. All right. Now, the actual result might not take that much work, but we're now taking a fairly large number and dividing it by another fairly large number. And again, I have to kind of think 372 into 18,000 or maybe 1,871. Maybe I don't think about that one right there, right? So maybe I'm even thinking about 3 going into 18 or maybe 4 going into 18. I think I'm going to take my first shot at 5. Okay, let's see if 5 gets the job done. All right, so 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 1 is 36, right? And then 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3 is 18. That was an excellent guess, right? Because when I subtract now, right, 1 minus 0 is 1, 7 minus 6 is 1. Great. I drop this other 1 so that I have a lot of 1s going on here. And I now have a remainder of 11, then with another 1. Now I'm looking at 372 divided into 111. Well, unfortunately, that, right, 372 goes into 111 0 times because it's simply too small. So I get 1116. Let me get rid of these. Now I have to think about this again, and maybe I'll take a shot with 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 7 is 21. I like what that's coming out to be. 3 times 3 is 9, plus another 2 is 11. And look at that. I get that remainder of 0. So it appears that my answer is 50.3. Now, if I want to go ahead and check it, as the problem suggests that I do, or demands, or whatever, tells me I got to do, then I'm going to do 50.3 multiplied by 0.372 and see if it gives me that 18.7116. And I'll use a little room right over here. Take that shot. So here we go. We're going to have 50.3 times 0.372. Lots of decimal places here, lots of multiplication. Let's do it. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 0 is 0, and 2 times 5 is 10. Put another 0. 7 times 3 is 21, 2. 7 times 0 is 0, plus another 2 is 2, and 7 times 5 is 35. 2 zeros. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 5 is 15. Now we have to add these all together. 6 and zeros is 6. 1, 11, carry the 1, watch out. 0, 5, 1, and 1 is 7. 8, 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have it. 18.7116. 18.7116. Definitely correct. Awesome. So again, dividing by decimals is no worse or better than any other long division you have to do. The key is that standard algorithm, which says to us, move the decimal place of the divisor as many places to the right as you need to, do the same to the thing that you're dividing into until this is a whole number. You don't have to get this to be a whole number, as it wasn't in this case, but you really want to be able to divide by a whole number. Let's do another exercise. All right, let's use some decimal division and multiplication. Exercise number 4. Dylan filled his car with 8.4 gallons of gasoline and paid $24.27, or 24.27. Find the price for a single gallon of gas to the nearest hundredth of a dollar, to the nearest penny. All right, so let's do it. It should be very simple, right? If you know how much you paid in total for a certain number of things you bought, and you know the number of things you bought, even if it's a decimal amount, then dividing the total that you spent by the total amount you bought will give you the price per thing that you bought. So I'm going to divide the 24.27 by 8.4. So let's write that down first. Actually, let me move this a little bit further. So we want to divide 24.27 by 8.4. Now, I'm going to change that by moving the decimal place on the 8.4 1 unit to the right, so that I'm now doing 84 divided into 242.7. Right? So simple enough, right? I started with 24.27 divided by 8.4. I'm going to change that into 242.7 divided by 84. So it seems pretty easy, right? I'm thinking about 8 and 24. Let's do it. I'm going to give 3 a shot. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 8 is 24, plus another one is 25, and too big. No good. Oh well, that's okay. We'll go back to 2. Let's try 2. 2 times 4 is 8, right? 2 times 8 is 16. I'll move that decimal point right up there right away. Let's do some subtraction. We're going to have to do some borrowing here. 12 minus 8 is 4. Have to do a little borrowing here. 13 minus 6 is 7. So I get 74. Drop that other 7. Now, I got like a pretty big remainder here, 74. So I'm gonna try to take a shot at maybe 8. Let's try that. 8 times 4 is 32, right? 8 times 8 is 64. 64 and 3 is 67. Maybe that's big enough. Let's take a look. 5, do a little canceling here. 75, you bet, right? Now, I gotta put another little 0 here, so we're gonna have 750 down there. I think this time I'm going to try 9. Let's try that. So actually, I'm going to go with 8 again. So we already know what 8 times 84 is. It's 672, right? We already did that once. So I'm going to do a little canceling again, right? We're going to get 8 there and 78 there. Again, we're fine. Going to have to drop another 0 down. Now I think we'll go with a 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Uh-oh. Carry the 3. 9 times 8 is 72. 75. Subtract, and I will get 24. I drop another 0, etc. Now, I could keep going, right? This decimal is going to keep going. Maybe it would eventually repeat. Maybe it would eventually terminate. Either way, though, I don't have to go any further because I want to round to the nearest hundredth of a dollar, the nearest hundredth of a dollar. Well, right now I've got 2.88. Here's my hundredth, right there. So I look at that 9, and that tells me I need to bump that 8 up to a 9, right? Because that 9 is 5 or larger, right? I have to bump that 8 up to a 9. So my price per gallon is $2.89. Okay? And again, just to be clear, it's not like I finished the division. This division could go on for a long time, maybe even forever, given that I could get that repeating sort of decimal business going on. But since all I needed to do was round to the nearest hundredth, as soon as I had a thousandth there that I felt good about, and I know that that would be a 9, that's enough to tell me what I should round my hundredths to, which is also a 9. Now let's look at letter B. Check your answer using multiplication, just like we've been doing. Why does your check not entirely agree with the information the problem gave? All right, so in other words, right, if this is the price that Dylan paid per gallon, and he bought 8.4 gallons of gasoline, I should now be able to multiply 289 by 8.4 to see if this is my final answer. So let's take a shot at that. I'm gonna give myself a little space here. What we want to do is we want to take my 2.89 and multiply it by 8.4. All right, simple enough. Let's do 4 times 9 is 36, carry the 3. 4 times 8 is 32, plus another 3 is 35. 2 times 4 is 8, plus another 3 is 11. Get our 0 here, get rid of these things so that we can see a little bit better. 8 times 9 is 72. 7. 8 times 8 is 64, plus another 7 is 71. 8 times 2 is 16, plus another 7 is 23. Add 6, 7, 2, 4, 2. I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I get 24.276. Now, that's pretty close, but we kind of expected 24.27, and we got 24.276. So that's that second part of the problem. Why does your check not entirely agree with the information the problem gave? Any thoughts on that? Well, it's pretty simple, right? It's because we rounded our answer from A. If we had worked this answer all the way out, as far as it went, and then we multiplied by 8.4, we would get 24.27 on the dot, right? But because we rounded our answer in A, then when we check in letter B, our check will be just a little bit off. And it's just a little bit off, right? We were thinking 24.27, and we got 24.276. So it's close. We feel good about it. But the reason it doesn't entirely agree is, again, because we rounded in A. We rounded in A. Anytime you round an answer and then you use it, it can throw things off just by a little bit. Let's keep going a little bit farther. One more problem. Nice applied problem. A rock made from granite weighs 437 grams. Granite weighs 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter. What is the volume of this rock in cubic centimeters? Round to the nearest cubic centimeter. Now again, this can be a little confusing. You know, we've got all these units like grams and decimals and cubic centimeters and all of this. But ultimately speaking, right, if I have a total of something and I have how much of that thing fits into a bucket, the bucket being a cubic centimeter, and I want to know how many buckets I have, well then I need to divide 437 by 2.7. So I need to begin this problem with the following. 2.7 divided in to 437. Notice, by the way, that it says round to the nearest cubic centimeter, implying that we could get a decimal that really gets quite ugly and stretched out here. But what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to take this, convert it, do the division, and see what you get as the volume of this rock to the nearest cubic centimeter. All right, let's do it. So I only have to move the decimal place 1 unit to the right, much easier than the things that we've been doing so far. But this one, when I move the decimal place 1 unit to the right, of course, I'm just going to tack a 0 onto the end of it. So this entire problem is going to become 27 divided in to 4,370. And I'll put like a little 0.00 here just in anticipation. So here we go. Right, I gotta think about how many times 27 goes into this. So 27 goes into 43 just one time. All right, so now I have to do a little subtraction here. So 43 minus 27, maybe do a little borrowing. I'm gonna get a 6 here, a 1 here, and then I'm gonna drop down that 7. I now have to think about how many times 27 goes into 167. I don't really wanna think about that, but I'm going to. I'm gonna give a 5 a shot. So 5 times 7 is 35. Go up here, 5 times 2 is 10, plus another 3 is 13. Will that be good enough? Oh, it's not. 5 is too small because we got a remainder, 32, that's bigger than our divisor. So that means I've got to go back up here, and instead of using 5, I've got to use 6. Get rid of that 3, and get rid of all of that. All right, 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 2 is 12, plus another 4 is 6. Oh, very nice. Now when I do the subtraction, I only get a 5. I've got to drop that 0 down. Now I'm looking at 27 and how many times it goes into 50. It only goes in there one time. 1 times 27 is 27. When I subtract 27 from 50, I get 23. I've now got that point, that decimal point, right? I'm going to drop the 0 down. I now have to think about how many times 27 goes into 230. I don't know. You know, let's go with 7. Let's see how that works. 7 times 7 is 49. All right, 2 times 7 is 14, plus another 4 is 8. I don't think that's going to be anywhere close to enough times. So why don't we try 9? Let's go for broke here. All right, 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 2 is 18, plus another 6 is 24, and that's too large. 7 was too small, 9 was too large, so let's go with 8. It's got to be our winner, correct? 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 2 is 16, plus another 5 is 21. There's my winner. 213 minus 16 is 14. I would then drop a 0 down, but I'm not going to go on anymore. And the reason I'm not going to go on anymore is I needed to round to the nearest cubic centimeter, implying the nearest whole cubic centimeter. We have 161.8 cubic centimeters, plus some more, right? All this would do is give me more decimal. That 8 tells me I should take that 1 and bump it up to a 2. So my final answer, 162 cubic centimeters. All right, so now another applied division problem. We could then go through and do a check. You know, we could multiply the 162 cubic centimeters by the 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter and see if it came out to 437. It wouldn't come out to that exactly because, again, we rounded this. We rounded how many cubic centimeters we had, but it would come very close. Let's wrap this up. So we didn't see anything new today, right? All we were doing was practicing the standard algorithm for dividing two quantities that have decimals in them, right? And again, it's easy enough. Move the decimal places as many units or as many digits to the right as you need to in order to make the thing that you're dividing by a whole number. We also saw some nice applied problems that involve division using decimals, and we'll see a little bit of that as we move forward in this course, including the last lesson of this unit where we mix up a bunch of decimals together to force you to think about whether you should add, subtract, multiply, or divide them. For now, I just want to thank you for joining me for another NGen Math 6 lesson by eMathInstruction. My name is Kirk Weiler, and until next time, keep thinking and keep solving problems.